Okay, I am continuing the Murder at the Met sequence, and this one is where we're off to Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. I actually don't remember much of the rest of the tour in New York City, and after that terrible event, we were not there long. We said goodbye to Lincoln Center and we were off to Washington, D.C. and Kennedy Center. While Kennedy Center is a beautiful building, the architects made one big mistake, and that was putting this beautiful building by the river. The floors are made of wood and they swell, so that the stage was like cement to dance on. Currently, the Kennedy Center has placed an additional floor above that floor that has a spring in it. But when we danced there, jumping on it was excruciatingly painful. Everyone was trying to just not get injured during that run. I remember landing from a grand jeté and literally feeling as if my bones were shuddering as my spine was trying to cushion the impact from my legs. It was quite an odd sensation, nothing that I had ever felt before. I remember standing on the stage, looking out into an audience that has held presidents and famous people being honored for their contributions to the arts. Such a moment is humbling, and just being on that stage was a tremendous honor. There is no way to not know that anyone standing there was standing in the footsteps of some of the greatest modern artists in this world. Like Lincoln Center, such places have an aura and a type of power mixed in with sprinkles of magic and memory. To me, they are alive, breathing, and a crucial part of the creative process. I remember standing on the stage looking out into the audience with the lights up and seeing all the red chairs and the ornate or decorations and trimmings. It was magnificent, classic, timeless. Kennedy Center is a great lady, much like a more modern version of Cora Crawley from Downton Abbey. I did not know in that moment that I would be graced to be on this stage once more. So I was trying to let it sink into my bones and allow myself to fully feel the exhilaration and joy that could be felt in the magical presence of such a grande dame. To me, this moment was our introduction. With great respect to this great lady, I took a long and graceful bow to her. I wanted to celebrate just being in the presence of her magnificence. To me, being there was not about fame or glory. It was a great honor to become a part of this history, and I wanted to add my personal energy into the complicated matrix that was this theater. I think of how many rush through life and forget to pause at such special moments and take it all in. I believe rushing in life is the basis of all regrets. I looked out into the belly of this magnificent beast and I saw it looking back at me, smiling. I took a deep breath and thanked her. My mind likes to take snapshots for my mind's memory scrapbooks, and I hope to be able to recall them when I am old and gray. So now I am here in this magnificent venue, and yet the murder in New York was still haunting me. I am sure I am not alone. But because of the circumstances beyond Herman's or my control, we needed to rehearse ourselves for our excursion to Suriname, as we were going to leave immediately after the performances in Washington to go to Suriname. Knowing full well that we were supposed to be in a small group, but needing to rehearse and knowing that it was unfair to ask another dancer to be a chaperone, we decided to rehearse on our own in between a morning off and a show that afternoon. We arrived together, walking from the hotel, laughing and chatting as we tended to do. We get to Kennedy Center and go through security once again. But as we go into the dressing rooms, all is quiet. It seems a bit too quiet. After all the hustle and bustle and the scare we had been through, it felt a bit empty, and it worried me a bit. We both go into our respective dressing rooms, and Herman says that he will meet me in the studio. I change quickly and go to the studio to warm up. I am sewing point shoes when the door opens. I am expecting to see Herman, but instead, I see a 20-year-old man standing in the doorway. Now, I have to say here, in all honesty, that the events of the previous week had taken their toll on me. The pressure and drama of performing in Lincoln Center, seeing friends and family, now being in Washington, D.C., our glorious capital, having my uncle come to see the performances here, him being in terrible pain, and in the mornings I was doing massages on his back because he was in such terrible pain, and then the murder, the police, the translating, and hearing all the stories of others during the show, to finally the warnings to never be alone got to me. I was under terrible stress, and it would be easy for me to react rather than to feel fully into a situation. So here I am thinking I am alone and that Herman would be walking in the door any minute. Just then, a young, strange man is standing in the doorway, and I am in the studio. Instantly, I realize that where he is standing is the only way out. I am trapped. Instantly, I begin to panic. I try to keep my composure and focus on sewing the point shoes, noticing that the scissors next to me is the only weapon I have available. The young man seems off somehow. I cannot put my finger on it, but there is something different about this young man. There was something not quite right about him. I was just scared enough to be afraid to look closely at him, and I opted instead to bring the scissors closer to me. He speaks without any hello or hi, which is odd to begin with. Instead, he says, "Are you German?" I said, "No, I am an American." He responds back, "But you are dancing with that German company, right?" I answered, still looking at my sewing, "Yes." Then he asks an odd question that makes my heart leap into my chest. "Then are you a Nazi too?" I think, what the hell? Is this the killer? Is this the reason he targeted someone during our performance? Did he think that we are all Nazis if we work for the Berlin Ballet? The violinist did look German with blonde hair and blue eyes. My mind is racing, and I am feeling lightheaded from the increased blood pressure. I can feel this part of myself that wants to run, but this young man is standing in the door. I think in my head, could I get past him? Where is Herman? Now I'm standing up and looking at this man more squarely, trying to decide what is happening. He seems young and off in some way that I can feel, but I cannot figure out what exactly is off about him. And now in my panic, my current level of alarm is not helping my clarity. He keeps talking about World War II and how the Americans kicked those Nazi asses. I am thinking, why is he saying this to me? Am I supposed to respond? What should I say? My only response is that I would not know, as I was not there, but that both my grandfathers had fought in the war and one was a pilot trainer. When he looks up, because of my response, there is something odd again about his look. I cannot understand what exactly I am seeing through the filter of my fear. He keeps talking as if he is talking to himself, and I am getting to hear it with him. Then I decide to say, well, I have to do a rehearsal, as some other dancers are coming soon, so it is probably time for you to leave now. Then, very nicely, he says, "Oh, okay, bye. Stay away from those Nazis." Then he leaves, and the door closes. I wait, holding my breath. I wait for what seems long enough, and I creep to the door and carefully open it, peeking out as I do, but I can't see him. I open the door completely and realize that he seems to be gone. Then I run. My heart is beating madly in my chest. I am terrified. I run all the way into the boys' dressing room, yelling for Herman. I hear Herman respond to not just my yelling at him, but my tone clearly was alarming to him as well. And I hear his voice and I follow it to him. He was almost dressed, but shall I say, not quite. Oops. And I tell him what happened. He is also clearly alarmed, and once dressed, we quickly go out to look for this young man, but I don't see him anywhere. Frustrated, concerned, and on edge, we go back to the rehearsal studio, and I realize that we can lock the door from the inside. So we locked ourselves into the studio to rehearse. Needless to say, it was not our best rehearsal, but we both tried. Herman is a huge guy and much taller than this young man, but not knowing what we were dealing with, we were distracted. We finish rehearsing and decide that we need to get out of the theater. No one is around, so I ran into the women's dressing room, grabbed my stuff, and changed in the rehearsal studio with the door locked. Then I meet Herman, and we walked out together to get some food before the show. On the way out, the guard was at the front once again. I decided to ask the guard about this young man. I am so grateful that I was very nice about it and I did not say or do anything inappropriate. I just asked, do you know that young man about 20 years old that has the sandy brown hair? There's something different about him, but I don't know what it was. Do you know him? Instantly, the guard said, oh, yes, you mean Charlie. He is the son of the janitor for the theater. He is, how can I say this nicely, slightly sub-intelligent? He helps his dad clean, and it gives him something to do. He does a good job. His dad has taught him well. He might just get the janitor's job from his dad when his dad retires. Good kid, but he gets fixed on subjects and gets into a loop. Was he bothering you? We don't usually have people here when he's working. Instantly, I realize the offness was with this young man. He had a disability. My fear had made him into someone potentially dangerous. I was terribly embarrassed by my reaction to a perfectly harmless young man. I responded, no, not at all. I just did not know who he was. And well, we had a scare in New York, and I'm a bit on edge. I just wanted to know that he belonged to this building. The guard instantly knew what I was talking about. He said, oh, yeah, I heard about the murder in New York. I am so sorry about that. I don't know why such things have to happen. Charlie would never hurt a flea. I smiled warmly and said, thank you for letting us know. I will not worry now. Then he said with a smile, you don't need to worry at all. We have cameras everywhere. And then he began to show me all of them in the area, saying, we must have security. Good enough for presidents. We got this. I left more humble and very sorry that I had reacted to that disabled man internally from the pattern of my own fears without any real basis in fact. I really looked at how my fear allowed me to overreact and to not be able to see things clearly, and I realized that this is how we can all end up judging others. Our fears make monsters out of those that seem different. We judge things that we do not seem to make sense of or that are odd or out of the norm. And I realized that I needed to learn how to not let my fears dictate what is happening in most moments. It woke me up to the next phase of learning about my own fears and how fear is insidious and infects situations with energies that take us down a path that can make us leap to conclusions. I will tell more of the stories from Kennedy Center and then on to Suriname in some more chapters. Thanks, everyone.